Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of That's All Funny. Today, my guest is a university lecturer for science and mathematics of London, UK. He's also the creator of the site Pikuma.com that teaches the fundamentals of math and science involved in video game development. This is Professor Gustavo Pezzi. Is that right? I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah,
How you
that's
doing?
correct. How you doing? Yeah, doing okay, doing okay. Glad to be here.
Awesome. No, thank you for your time today, Professor. I really do appreciate it. And again, I hope I didn't butcher any of that.
No, that
That's
was perfect. Yeah, that was perfect. One of the first times that people get the name of the school correctly, and even my name. Like in the States, people used to call me Gus because it was easy. But right, like here in the UK, if I say Gus, people have no idea what that means, and then Gustavo is actually easier for them. So I actually, it's all over the place. Some places Gustavo, Gus, it just yeah, it doesn't really matter. It's fine.
No, I know the feeling with my name being a little. I'm Hispanic or Mexican,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
being a little foreign. I don't even know how to say my last name. I know I got to roll my R's, and I can't. I can't do that at all. So
Yeah.
I'm like, don't worry, I can't even say my own last name.
Areola,
So
Areola.
yeah,
Yeah, that's
Adriola.
Areola. Yeah.
Yeah. No, so honestly, me growing up, I wanted to be an English teacher, from my love of creative writing. Who or what was your inspiration to become a teacher in your specific field of study, with mathematics and science? Because me growing up, I thought that was the boring stuff, like math and science,
Yeah,
it's hard. Nah, never mind. What
yeah.
made you
So
want to?
it's a very good question because I mean it's almost a staple that everyone. I don't think anyone, at least that I knew, grew up liking mathematics, right? And it wasn't different with me. It didn't resonate very well with me when I was probably like 10, 11, or 12. When you're that early, you try to reason about change or percentage. It's kind of boring, right?
Hmm.
So yeah, I didn't like mathematics when I was growing up. Computers was a little bit different because you have games, right? And games are always a little bit fun when you're. It's always fun, and you kind of my life starts revolving around that. After a while, you have games, and you. I mean, I'm from a third world country, so there was a lot of floppy disks with games, pirated games going around. That you change with your classmates and your friends. Yeah,
Hmm.
so games was something that I always liked, and yeah, and then I went about my life. I went to study, and I went to study computer science. Right, that was kind of how I start. Computer science. I became a programmer. When I went to study in the United States in Kansas, and then I became friends with a professor there, a guy, super super cool guy. He had like a little bit of some connections with other Brazilian students,
Hmm.
and that professor, his name was Robert Walter. I started hanging out with him a lot, and by hanging out with him, I hang out a lot with other professors as well. And I was a student back then, right? So I was just kind of having lunch with people, talking about some different areas. So you go and just talk to people about chemistry, biology, and that was so cool. I was like, I really enjoyed the touching other areas and learning about these other disciplines, right? Not just computers, not just programming. So touching other disciplines, and one of uh, a lot of the professors, they were from the mathematics department, and from the not even from when I was studying, when you have to take like calculus 1, calculus 2, linear algebra. Sometimes you just go by your day, you pass the exams. But talking to these people in like lunch hours, or after hours, you start to understand the relationship between even game programming and mathematics. And that is when things click, right? You start to really learn like the applications of all those things that you learn, numerical computations and linear algebra and all those things, and how those things connected to the games that I used to play back when I was a kid. And yeah, that was when the coin dropped, and yeah, I never looked back. That was when everything started. That was the genesis of my passion. So I think that was a quick introduction of why I ended up in this field of math and computer science.
And what made you? Because there's a big difference between learning, like all
Yeah.
this and having a passion for it, and then teaching it, because that's a whole nother monster in itself. What made you want to be able to teach it as well
I
as not only
Yeah,
just learning it?
that's a good question. I don't think it was something that I had a choice. I don't want to sound, I really don't want to sound arrogant here, but it was something like the moment that I taught the first time, I knew that that was it.
Mhm,
The passion that I had for teaching, weirdly enough, was almost bigger than if the passion that I had even creating something. Like I used to work at companies and stuff, and then yeah, you create software and you create solutions. But I love the fact that when I teach, I can learn, and I just that really kind of gets my blood pumping, right? So kind of learning stuff and teaching stuff. I don't know. I think I had no choice. It was just something that I always liked doing, and hopefully I think I'm good at it. So it's yeah. I don't think I had any choice. It was just something that got me, and I just went with it.
well, no, it sounds great, and of course, I you must be pretty good at it if you're especially teaching at the level you're teaching at, I imagine, it's a whole 'nother, like,
Mm,
tier of students in a university and
Weirdly enough, it's funny because there is a spectrum of programmers and teacher and people that want to learn, right? Sometimes they look at the things that that I teach, right, or like kind of like low level computer science, things that are not usually people don't usually kind of waste too much time, like low level programming, retro programming things, or even the mathematics part of programming. People they assume that is like, oh, this is like graduate level difficult stuff, but it funny enough is not like there's a lot of very basic stuff. It's
uh-huh,
not uncommon that you revisit things like ratios, percentages, fractions in something that is so common, but that is kind of usually where the pain is.
mhm,
I have a lot of people. I'm very honest with all my students. I know that there's a lot of people that they graduated elementary school, they graduated high school, even sometimes with good grades, but the truth is that a lot of people that even graduated, they don't even remember the math that they did, or they never learn where those things were applied, right?
mhm.
So people just go, they go with the flow in the high school curriculum, and they just pass exams and kind of that's it, right? But it's funny how, yeah, even like old people, 30 years old, 40 years old, 50-year-old, 70-year-old people that just live their whole life, they go back to the basics, and they start to learn like, oh, so this is how we compute the ratio of something for something on a game, right? Or this is like, just simple fraction, just a simple fraction division. That is why those things, that's why the slope does something. So I think it's pretty funny how sometimes people think it's difficult, but actually we are revisiting really, really basic stuff that people learning in elementary school. That's quite funny, I think.
No, it comes in handy because I know, me personally going to high school, I just kinda was, just get trying to get by, trying to get
Right?
by.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
passed,
Exactly. Yeah.
and then when I went to, college, they, test me and they're like, "Oh, you're gonna take remedial algebra," and
Exactly. Yeah.
I was like, "Thank God," because I don't remember anything.
Exactly. I don't. I cannot fake anymore. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, I'm like, "Oh my gosh, thank
Yeah.
you,"
And
and
I don't even
it
feel. I was always very honest with my students. I was like, look, there is nothing to be ashamed. You're not alone at all. Like I would say that. I would even say this is kind of empirical number, but 90% of people that I know, there is a lack of, I don't know what is the word. I think it is a lack of understanding the application of things. Because, like you said, people see mathematics as this kind. They look at mathematics, for example, uh, x's and y's, and then after a while, it becomes kind of this mechanical thing that you
Mhm,
see a variable on a numerator and then a variable on the numerator, and you think like, oh yeah, I can cross these two things, and then they cancel out. But the mechanical part of solving that equation, I think, again, people are focusing too much on the algorithm of canceling those numbers and canceling those variables, but they don't kind of look beyond the formula, right? So what is that thing actually telling me about movement? What is that equation telling me about the nature of things, right? If I have something in a denominator, what does that thing tells me about, for example, how strong is the force that I'm going to throw a projectile, right? So for example, the
mhm,
bigger the mass, the slower the force is I have to apply, right? Sorry, the bigger the mass, the bigger the force I have to apply to make something move. So kind of thinking about the applications and looking beyond the formula, that is what I think people are, like I said, people graduate, they go to college, they do everything, they pass the exams, they get the mechanical part of the formula working, but to really understand, look beyond and try to get the intuition behind things. I think that's what people are lacking a lot, the intuition behind where those things are applied. So yeah, you're not, trust me, you're not alone. Like I said, 90% of people that I meet, old people, like in their 70s, 60s, 70s, they I like when they're honest and they say like, yeah, this is kind of the first time that I'm looking at this with through these lenses. So it's quite cool.
No, you're definitely right. Like anyone, you said, could just like kind of pull out a calculator and find the answer, but knowing how the answer was reached is really
Yeah,
where the passion is almost at. You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
no, definitely. Do you look at like the technology that is available to students at present time, such as the powerful computers, the AI, and do you ever wish, oh, gee, I wish I had that stuff growing up,
You have
or are
no idea. Well, there are definitely, definitely. I mean, the amount of resources and really good people explaining things, not just resources or technology, but the amount of good people that you can reach, and good teachers explaining stuff online. I can only imagine how great it would be, right? If I had these things back then.
uh,
Yeah, we definitely didn't have these things. Even when I was in college, like I graduated in 2007, things were really, really, internet was really kind of starting.
mhm,
But yeah, yeah, there are two things that I noticed, right? Just kind of going in this and in this direction. So yeah, it's probably amazing to be like in high school and have all these resources available. But sometimes, I don't know, sometimes I think it could be also a little bit overwhelming, because
definitely.
especially like if in the looking at, for example, at programming, right? There's something that changes super quick, super, and people have very passionate takes on their favorite programming language, or what you should be studying, technologies that should be studying. It might be overwhelming, for someone that is just starting, to have all these resources and to kind of filter what is really good or not. And especially because I see a lot of conflicting information. For example, you start reading a blog, and then you read about like Python or like programming about something, and then if you just read another blog, chances are that other blog is going to say that the first blog was wrong, and it's kind of very complicated, because attention is something that is really hard already to get from kids. And if you kind of have this conflicting information, I don't know, I'm not kind of young, because but I can only imagine it must be tricky to kind of work with all this conflicting information and people telling you like, oh, you should do this, oh no, forget about that, you actually should be doing this thing. So yeah, I don't know, it goes both ways, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And I know I've been taking a little bit of intro to programming with my cybersecurity classes,
Yeah,
and there's more than one way to reach an answer, even in
yeah.
mathematics. So yeah, one person's wrong way is another right way. There's you can take
Yeah.
one right, three lefts or one right, you're going the same direction.
Exactly, and people are very passionate about their lefts and rights, right? You have a whole blog like with really like passionate takes, that like, this is how I did it, and this is, and everyone else that takes left here is wrong. And then you kind of sit there in the middle and you're like, dude, I'm just trying to learn, like I don't even know anything, right? Like so it's like I said, it must be super, super overwhelming, like super complex to
Mhm.
be a young person right now with this sea of information online. Is a great thing, of course. And even technology wise, can you imagine like the power of tech? I just saw like right now, like I think it was Apple that was just integrating this whole kind of tablet solution. You actually write symbolical mathematics, and then it just kind of gives you the answer as you go. You just like write a numerator and denominator, and it kind of understands your handwriting and completes things for you. uh, and not just that, right? But like graphing stuff automatically. You change the factors, and then the graph increases, decreases in real time. That should be amazing. I can only imagine, right, if I had this type of things when I was growing up. Yeah, it's really envy about them. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I know I graduated high school in 2005, and all we had was like a TI-82, TI-83.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that's all
yeah.
we really
That's
had. That
so,
was
and like it was really hard to graph things. It was like pixelated, right? You can like the
uh-huh.
graph of those was really pixelated. Oh yeah. Oh
And
yeah,
I'd
but
had
just, yeah, but just sorry, just to kind of getting to the same idea, right? You say like,
mhm,
what do you think about young people learning about these things? You have to be very careful as well, because back then when you were like programming your HP calculators, or the old school ones, it was very clear that you had to program them to do something, right? It's kind of like you had to go out of your comfort zone to learn what was the command that you had to program, or even like program the graph of those things. So you were also kind of like a creator of something. You had to go and do something.
Hmm.
Right now, like as we are right now, is very tricky because you have these young kids that they are not just creators, they are kind of consumers of technology, right? I always found like there's a little bit of a danger zone there, because you can basically just become a consumer of technology. You don't really necessarily know how things work under the hood or how those things were programmed. You just use that app, or you just, they are very good at using it and finding information on YouTube online, but are you actually creating something, or are you just using something, right? So we have
Hmm.
to, it's a very dangerous line there. We have to, I always say people, you have to leave your comfort zone. Things are super easy now, but you have to be a creator, right? You have to create something, not just use a library that is ready for user as a programmer, not just use an app that is ready or a framework that is ready. There is beauty in kind of creating things, even if there's super simple stuff. There is always beauty in creating something from scratch, right?
No, yeah, I think of, I helped my dad helped me change the car battery, and he knew how to do it
Exactly.
without looking at a
Oh
YouTube
yeah,
video, and I'm like, "Oh,
absolutely.
well, let me look at a YouTube video, I could probably do it, but if I don't have the internet, if that's
Yeah.
down, then we don't
Oh
have
yeah, yeah,
anything to do." So it go with any, apply to
yeah,
anything in life,
yeah.
essentially.
And it's the
Uh,
same thing. I remember, like when I was just learning how to program, not just programming, there was so many obstacles in the way. I had to learn like what a file was. How do I change directories in MS-DOS? So there was so many things. I had to learn about what a file system was, opening a file, what a file extension was. So there are all these things that you kind of have to learn behind the scenes. So before you actually went to program something. Right now, I don't think people even know what files are. They just kind of open a document and it's just there, and then they save it somewhere. So yeah, kind of understanding, you have to suffer a lot. I think that suffering a little bit was, it has some benefits.
oh yeah,
It has a little bit of benefits, so you don't get like blindsided by things that you don't actually know and you think that you know. Yeah.
and then learning from mistakes too,
Oh
I'm
my god,
sure.
yeah, yeah. Learning from other people's mistake is better, but yeah,
That
that's
that always is
that's the
ideal.
idea. That's ideal. Yeah.
And I see your online education platform, Pikumu,
Mm.
I believe, right? Pikuma. I always
Tukuma.
attribute Pikuma. I
Yeah.
always, yeah, I attribute that. What inspired you to create these courses for Pikuma.com that help students like what they do? They help understand the fundamentals of game development. Is that what?
Well, it's a tricky thing to explain what I do, because so let me see if I can put this in a way that, in this platform I teach the things that they don't allow me to teach at the university. It's kind of how it goes, right? Because um, at university there's a lot of kind of useful stuff. You learn how to program, you have how to code, but there's always like an end goal in terms of applying those things, right, in the business context, or I don't know, whatever you're going to do later, right, masters, or so. There's always kind of like a utilitarian view on things.
Hmm.
This platform right here was kind of my rebellious way of just saying like, look, I want to teach people the things that I never had. Like I want to create the courses that I never had, but I think are important. There are things that are lacking whenever people are learning. Two big pillars, right? Math and computer science. So there are things that are lacking because sometimes you just throw students in a class, in like a college class, but they don't actually understand the basics of things. So my goal was, I wanted to teach. I want to actually explore, like open the black boxes and see like what is inside a game, right? Not simply like, oh, I want you to teach how to make a game, but I want you to understand the math that goes inside a game. Yeah, exactly. So if you see, for example, the three courses that I have right there:
Hmm.
PlayStation programming, Nintendo Entertainment System programming, and Atari programming. These are not things that you're going to get any jobs programming, right? No one is going to hire you to. No one is going to hire you to learn to go and program for the original PlayStation or the original Nintendo.
Uh-huh.
So the reason why I teach these things is because they are so. The architecture of these machines is so much simpler than a modern computer. Then it's easier to understand what a computer is really doing. I don't know if it makes sense. Like the complexity of the original PlayStation it's a lot easier for you to understand how bits move from memory to processor to from processor to the display. It's a lot easier to understand these older machines than it
Mhm.
is if you try to understand like how your Apple MacBook works, because there's so many layers, right? There's like memory layout, memory paging, there is the operating system protecting stuff. So there's so much complexity in these modern machines that is very hard to understand how a computer really works if you just look at these modern complex beasts. So that is what I do. I said like, look, let me just stop. Let's just go back to the basics, like the very rudimentary machines that, it was very simple. It's just kind of almost like making sparks move. It just kind of makes like a spark, and the electron goes to the display. I just want to go back to the basics and let's just revisit these things. So that's why, like I said, people will never let me teach you these things in university, but I still think there is value in this type of things. Like the best programmers that I know, they have a curiosity to understand this type of things. So I just like, yeah, I just try to create something that I wish I had when I was growing up, and I never did. It's kind of like the motivation, I think.
No, yeah, that's really cool. So, it's sorta like you said, uh, these machines nowadays, like gaming machines are, like, powerful computers,
Oh
right? They're
my
not
god,
even
yes.
yeah,
And there is like so many things like connection to the internet. You have to have a user have like an authentication and then downloading. It's so complex. How are you going to teach someone that never programmed before how to actually make things move inside a machine if you have all these complex things going on? So yeah, that's it. There you go. Yeah,
and then especially nowadays with what's old is new, everyone making and you see, like, the independent game scene, they take a lot of those PlayStation 1 graphics or
they do. Yeah,
NES
yeah.
graphics and
It's so classic, right? Like you have like there is, besides the nostalgia of people that were actually playing those games. Yeah, it's an aesthetics that it's different than simple realism, right? It's like photorealistic games. There's like something different there, right? It's kind of like you can play with colors, you can play with movement. It's a look that it's attractive in a way. It's kind of a very low poly indie games. You're right. People are looking for those effects, and they're still releasing games with those looks. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
yeah, it's almost an art style,
It is art style. Yeah, yeah.
like
It,
watercolor or,
yeah,
oil or something,
exactly. There you go. Yeah, there you go.
yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's amazing. And what were your favorite games like growing up? Did that sort of, inspire you to what courses you wanted to do? Have you ever personally, like, wanted to create a game, or have you created games recreationally or commercially?
Yeah. So my industry experience was mostly computer graphics, but not with games. So I used to work for companies, for example, to do like 3D rendering or CAD systems for like architecture, engineering, this type of things. So it
Mhm,
wasn't really like I was never in a AAA game studio working. I did release some games with some companies, but it was basically like very small things. For example, a game for Coca-Cola or Chevrolet
mm,
or Chevy. You need things like for adverts or new cars that they release. You have these packages, and then you create a little game for these big companies.
mhm.
But I never released anything on a AAA band, so that was not it. But it was kind of cool. I don't think uh, it would be nice, of course, but I think life kind of takes you in a different path, and I think it worked out. I have to say, like looking back, I think I probably made a little bit more money than I did if I were working on games. I think
Uh-huh,
that's kind of how it goes, right? The games industry is not known for paying that well, and there's a lot of issues nowadays that you can see, being exposed, right? But
mhm.
going back to your question, right? The games that I used to play, that kind of back in the day, um, I don't really. I have to be honest. I don't really play that many games anymore, but back then I used to be like all the time, like when I was mostly like MS-DOS games, things like that, really really back when I was a kid. uh, I used to like flight simulators. Well, I don't even know if I can call them simulators right now, but they were kind of like borderline
Uh-huh,
simulator arcade. So there was a game like I used to play like all these very low poly MS-DOS games, like F-22 arcade. TFX was a game that I loved playing. uh, and also there was some other games that was from, for example, called Click and Play. from LucasArts. Again, very very old school games. I really used to like this type of games. They kind of made my childhood. So yeah, I would say that is the bracket of time that I was probably like 100% on the 100% of time in the computer. That was my gaming phase. That
Uh-huh.
was when I loved that. Yeah.
No, that's great. With currently the new tools and different programming languages sort of shifting what's popular with, I guess, people like the masses or current tech. Do you think having this many choices hurts someone wanting to come in and learn how to program, or is variety like the spice of life? You know.
I think you cannot fight that. I think that's just the nature of the nature of society as we are. Like we are always, I think, we are always tempted to just create stuff and release stuff and have new things. I think, like I said, I'm aware that there are side effects that are not great. For example, people are overwhelmed, and also uh, imposter syndrome is something that comes with that, right? Because you have so many things to learn and you don't really understand what is behind everything. It's very easy to just get burned out or feel that you are an imposter and you don't know everything. So there are the side effects that are kind of horrible, right? It's something that comes with the huge number of choices of technology and number of options that we have. But I think it's just the nature of society. We're just that is how by democratizing things, more people start creating content and more people start creating games and more people start creating programming languages and more people start creating technology. So I think it's just the nature of having more things reaching more people all the time. So yeah.
No, yeah, I get that. Too many choices sometimes it is overwhelming. But
Yeah, like I mean, everyone is human, right? At the end of the day, you sit your head on the pillow and you think like, oh man, like, do I really know what I did today? Like, the decisions that I had to make today, like, how do I know if they were right or wrong? If I cannot even comprehend everything that is going on behind the scenes of those things. So yeah, it's super complex. It's like you have to deal with all these feelings, and yeah, people are just humans. It's a struggle to work with all this complexity that the modern
mhm.
world brings. Yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. And what are your opinions on artificial intelligence and how it's being utilized into our lives? Do you think that'll do more harm than good, or help further advance tech?
Look, I'm just gonna say kind of exactly what I said. I don't think we can stop it. I think it's something that is gonna come, but there are side effects that are dirty, like exactly what I said. More and more, we are just going to basically rely on a tool to do something for us. And again, at the end of the day, you're gonna sit, you're gonna put your head on the pillow. It's like, can I really, be accountable for the decisions that I made, or is that really something that I can um, that I can trust? It's again, it's gonna add more to the complexity that we already are in this crazy sea of complexity that we already are.
Mhm.
People say like, oh, it's gonna be super easy now for people to program stuff. Like, I have been around for a long time. I don't think that's gonna be that easy in the start. I think artificial intelligence or assisted intelligence is going to make us have to work even harder as programmers, because you have to not just code, but you have to kind of fix the mistakes that this early stage AI is going to create. So yeah, I'm not going to say I am super optimistic, but I'm not that doom and gloom. I think it's going to eventually. I think we're gonna go and polish until things are gonna get better in the future.
Yeah.
So like I said, hopefully everyone can go and just focus their lives on good stuff, right? If you want to use your time to learn or paint or make music, that's what I'm looking for, right? That's what I'm looking for. I don't want AI just to kind of make me work more and more and more. Hopefully in the future, like, my kid is going to be able to like enjoy the things that he likes, right? Make music, create content, learn about math without having to, like, I don't know, just learn because he needs to be productive in a job. If we can get technology to kind of help us get into a more pleasurable future, I think, yeah, that would be a good thing. It's going to take a while though.
Yeah, definitely. And
Yeah,
I'm hope like just like you, I hope it's something we have to go with the flow with, but I hope it doesn't lessen our human
exactly.
connections.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. What words of encouragement would you give a computer programmer that may feel it's not worth learning these skills coming now with these automated tools and stuff like that with AI?
Good question. Look, I more and more, right? I'm just going to say, like, more and more, uh, the need for professional, trustworthy people is going to be kind of in high demand. It's not just about someone that knows how to code. Like, whenever we used to hire people, it's not just someone that is technically competent or knows stuff. There's a lot of other stuff that you have to be you have to bring to the table. Like, you need to be you need to be consistent. You need to be professional. You need to know how to interact with people. You need to kind of be there. Technology and programming skills, these are things that have been changing ever since I started. Like, almost nothing that I did when I was starting, the technology that I used, I still use today. Things change so fast. So, like I said, like, the words of encouragement is like, look, you're not alone, and these things are going to happen. If you want to have a career in technology, that is something that you're going to have to get used to, because things change, right? In 6 months you're going to change.
Hmm.
If you see this change as something interesting and something that kind of gets you excited, then you probably are in the right place. Um, if if you are only going to enter the field to be kind of mediocre, or if you just think that that is kind of like a comfort zone and everyone is just doing coding because that's what brings money now, maybe you have to rethink. It's not it's not a comfort zone job that you can just learn and then do that forever, and you don't have to grow. You always have to grow. So I think you just have to remember, like, what is it that made you choose technology in the first place, right? You just have to be ready for this type of things. But I think, like I said, I think there's a lot of marketing involved in pushing some ideas that, oh, it is not going to be worth anymore, or it's not worth studying these type of things. Just hype and just kind of people saying things that they don't really understand. uh, People have to start creating. People have to instruct computers. These type of things are not going to go away anytime soon, at least not in 100 I'll say years. That's still going to, yeah, I would say 70, 80 years old, 80 years, we're still going to have people having to tame these machines. So I think it's fine. It's just that we have to be very careful about who is telling these things, and what is behind the narrative, right? So, you know are they actually are these people selling chips? Do they have the skin in the game? Why are they saying this type of things, right? Are they actually selling AI to other companies? So why are they saying this type of things? Are they just trying to be dramatic? So, yeah, you have to be very, very careful in today's world. Have to be very careful. Yeah, a
Oh
lot of
yeah,
people saying a lot of things. Yeah,
no, definitely, and not just technology, but in any uh,
everything, everything.
everything in life.
Yeah,
No,
yeah, yeah,
definitely.
everything.
And what advice would you give to teachers in this world who where being a mentor feels more like almost like a liability than actually like
True,
fulfilling? Like, how would you
true.
feel? What words of encouragement would you give to them or advice?
So you have to. This is going to be very kind of personal to what I have been seeing out there. The role of a teacher is, most of the times, is to, again, help people navigate this complexity that is out there. uh, Sometimes people just say, like, oh my god, is all you have to do now is use technology in the classroom. Just use technology in the classroom. Oh my god, so much technology in the classroom. And then students, they kind of, again, they go home and they just kind of, the mind explodes, because they didn't grab anything. They just saw things moving, animations, great, oh my god, that's so cool. But they actually, it doesn't resonate with them. Like, why are they actually seeing those things? Why am I seeing that graph with all these amazing technologies now that I see on the classroom? using technology is not enough. Like the role of a teacher has to be, like I said, things that I was lacking when I was growing up. Where do I apply these things? Do you understand that it's not just the technology alone is not going to connect the dots for the students? Like, okay, fine. Why is this graph? Okay, I have a graph of a line. I have a graph of a parabola. What does that mean? I can have a technology showing me the graph. I can have all these beautiful things and amazing numbers and everything super quick being solved. Where am I going to use that? Right. So if you like, technology for technology's sake is not the solution for teaching or learning, for that matter. I think you just have to be careful, because the role of a teacher is to connect these dots, and you have to help the students. You have to make their lives easier in terms of uh, filtering what is the clean path for them. You have to protect them and put them in a correct path so they don't get distracted. Because that is, I think, the most dangerous things right nowadays. People just get distracted and they just lose their attention, and then they just kind of get all over the place, and then they just don't know what they're doing. So I think one of the things that, if you are a teacher nowadays, one thing that you have to understand is, like, how can I create a protection, like a protected path for the students, so they don't get too distracted with other things that are not worth it, right? So how do I kind of optimize this time for them? Again, it's a complex answer, but yeah, I think that's what I have to say.
No, and I appreciate those words, definitely, and I appreciate your time. Thank you again, for
Oh
this
yeah,
time. And everyone can find your courses on the fundamentals of computer science and mathematics at pikuma.com.
yeah.
No, definitely worth checking out. And again, I want to thank you for being here, and I hope you continue to do what you do, because it's amazing. I
No, super
appreciate it.
cool. And I was just gonna say, look, I love talking about this type of things. If people want to, if they have ideas, or if they have doubts, or if they want to kind of just discuss, or if they don't know what to do, or if they have, you can always kind of find me on Twitter as well. Well, X now, but yeah. So it's like, you can just ping me. Is just at Pikuma. That's our handle. Like I said, I live for this. I love this topic. I love to teach. That was something that always gave me a lot of pleasure. I met a lot of really cool people. I learned a lot from people when I teach. So yeah, if anyone just wants to discuss, just yell. I'm there.
I appreciate that so much. And yeah, I'll have all your or I'll have the social and the
Mm,
website in the description. Anyone can check that out. And thank you, Professor, for your time.
no
And
problem.
yeah, everyone
Yeah.
take care. See
Bye
y'all
bye.
later. Bye
Bye bye,
bye.
Lorenzo. Bye bye, everyone. Ciao, ciao.